If you can't control your filthy lust, castrate yourself. And you girls over there, how dare you come out here? How dare you? Your parents hate you.
I'm pansexual.
My name is Cody Hill.
A lot of times
trans people
telling her
I like this kid.
that's just who I am, that's how it is, you know.
We're looking at why bullying exists.
I'm pansexual. Pansexual is slightly different than bisexual. Bisexual is that there is you see a gender binary with male and female. Pansexual is more of you don't like someone because of their gender. You just like everyone regardless of what their gender is.
There's a lot of different, trans narratives, and every trans person that you ask will say something different. But for me, it just means that, I'm a guy, and I know that the same way all of you know your gender, except it was a harder process for me to realize that because I was born female, socialized as female, and then when I came to college, I was made aware of the trans community for the first time, and I saw that, I could reasonably transition and live my life in this way that I felt more comfortable, and I could have a sense of community, and that was a possibility. So then I came out as transgender, and I've been living for almost 3 years as male.
I don't know, upon seeing her, I immediately felt this attraction that was unlike anything else, that was sort of the point where I was like, I'm gay, there's no point in hiding it or trying to get around those feelings.
I mean, of course, you're not really aware of this kind of thing growing up because no one ever told me when I was young, oh, if you feel like a boy, you can be one. So I was always a tomboy kind of, and there was a lot of times when I was really young when I used to say I wish I was a boy, but I was told that I couldn't be. And then I realized I was queer in high school, and it wasn't until college actually where I even heard the word transgender for the first time. And that kind of explained a lot and made me feel like now I had a word to match what my experiences had been growing up and through high school. Cody is the only name that I go by, and this is who I am, and that past life is kind of triggering to bring up. People want to know because they have this idea of what it means to be trans, and they really want to see the before and after. They want to get a before and after kind of picture in their head.
I was in 9th grade. I was really nervous. I had been struggling with depression because I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't know how to go about talking about it with someone. And so I asked my friend, I said, listen, Krista, I really need to talk to you about something. And she was like, okay. And so I managed to get her to my house, and we had a sleepover. It took me literally hours to just say I'm gay. I think I'm attracted to girls. And I finally got it out, and she was super supportive, just as best friends should be. And, she gave me a huge hug and told me that if there was anything I ever needed, that I could always come and talk to her about it, which is very comforting to know.
In 7th grade, I liked this kid, this guy, and I didn't know what it was at first, and then I realized that maybe I was bisexual. So it's actually funny because I came out to my mom over AIM, which also shows you how long ago it was, but I came out to my mom over AIM, and she just said, no, you're not. I was like, what? I was like, Mom, I think I'm bisexual. She's like, no, you're not. So that was kind of jarring and kind of weird that she was like, oh, no, it was just a phase.
I myself came out as bisexual in my 30s, and I'm glad that a lot had changed in the world, that there was more awareness, there were more gay, lesbian, bisexual, trans people who are out in their lives. There's been a lot of advocacy and a movement to create equal rights, demand equal rights. So things have changed, but from high school to my 30s, there were more family members who were accepting and supportive and understood that to come out is a real act of courage and faith in oneself and taking a chance on those around us. My role at the center is as the project director, which means that I work with our staff and our volunteers and our working committees and our board to really promote the mission of the center and the particular services and programs of the center.
The LGBTQ Community Center, the Hudson Valley LGBTQ Community Center, is our own organization. We are not-for-profit. Part of our mission is, of course, to work in community and partner collaboratively with other schools and institutions and community organizations and individuals. When you think about bullying, bullying happens for so many reasons. And when I think about bullying, I think about the isms and the reasons that people are abused or oppressed. And bullying can happen for anything to do with racism, sexism, homophobia. So, and just people not respecting each other or whatever the reasons. Of course, oftentimes gay youth are on the receiving end of bullying.
I got a lot of bullying in 7th and 8th grade, and it was just a lot of name calling, a lot of, putting me down a lot.
I remember one example was when I was in high school, I think it must have been 11th grade because she's 2 years younger, so she was in the 9th grade, and we had the same lunch period, and my girlfriend was a grade ahead of me. And we sat together at lunch, and, we would hold hands at lunch under the table, nothing extreme, like a couple behind us, meanwhile, was making out, a straight couple, which was okay. We weren't doing nothing of that nature. And one of the lunch monitors came up to us and told us that, we couldn't sit next to each other because we were clearly gay or whatever. And she obviously had a problem with it. And I was super upset. And I told my sister about it. And she went up to the lunch monitor and sort of chewed her out, which I wasn't sure how to feel about it. But it was really, it was a nice gesture and of my sister to stick up for me and to support me like that.
In the Women's and Gender Studies program. And, that centers around the idea of feminism. And within feminism, oftentimes there's a lot of people who are transphobic, who don't think that trans people's identities are valid because the discipline centers around issues of gender. So I've had teachers maybe say passive-aggressive remarks sometimes, assign readings that invalidated my identity. I had one teacher specifically out me in front of the class after I had asked her to use the pronouns he, him, and his, and to use the name Cody, which is my chosen name. She refused to do that. She would call me she in front of me and behind my back. She would slip up and say my birth name, which is humiliating for a trans person to hear. And she just, would say that she didn't think that I was really a guy and things like that in front of other people. And so that made it really difficult. It made me kind of uncomfortable with the program. It really affected my experiences at the school, and it meant I had to stay away from some classes that I wanted to take or drop other classes because I was uncomfortable in them.
I think I might have been about 7 years old when I called my older brother the F word. And I think about it now, I could not possibly have understood what the word meant. I couldn't have understood that there was any sort of sexual connotation to it. I must have just known somehow that it was a bad word. And 7 years old is like a first grader in elementary school, so I don't know where I heard it. But when I repeated it, I got in a lot of trouble at my house. It's the one and only time that I remember my mouth being washed out with soap. I don't know if other people identify with that so much anymore. Younger folks might not get their mouths washed out, but people of my generation and before did. And so that was really a strong message that probably my parents weren't even intending to deliver. But that was probably like the first time I can remember in my life that there was so much anger around words that could be used against people, and that particular word.
It happens a lot. And that saying, "you're so gay," or "don't be so gay," we had to quote unquote outlaw it in our programs, that just as it's not acceptable to say racist or sexist, slurs and negative remarks, it's also not acceptable to say anything using gay as with a negative connotation.
And my girlfriend and I were on this sidewalk, and we were kissing, and we felt this staring at us, and how you can feel someone watching you. And there was a man that came up to us and just told us how wrong we were and how this was a sin and that we would be punished. And it's hurtful, especially when someone's just so loose about, they can just come out and say something like that to you. It really hurts. And you're not we weren't doing anything wrong, we were just kissing. And so at first that's what he said, and then I got really upset. I'm a very emotional person, and I sort of reacted to it and was just like I don't know you, get away, you have no authority, you have no judgment over us, who are you to say something? And then he was like, oh, can I get in on that, can I kiss you guys, being just, it was the worst experience I've probably ever dealt with regarding my sexuality.
Yesterday it was brought to my attention, there's a Facebook page, New Paltz Secrets, where people can go on and anonymously post secrets. I think it's a terrible idea because it's not moderated at all, so it's become a forum for anonymous hate speech, basically. If you go on at any given point, there is a lot of homophobic slurs and sexist slurs and stuff like that. So I try to steer clear of it, but it was brought to my attention yesterday that there was one post that was completely transphobic, and it was a man saying that he had tried to have sex with someone and then realized that she was transgender, and so he assaulted her, beat her until she was unconscious, and stole money from her. And throughout the whole thing, he was referring to this woman as a man and as it and a tranny and all these disgusting slurs that are unacceptable to use. And I've had a lot of people saying, do you think that's true? And even if it's not, first of all, the fact that someone would use the story to be funny says enough about the way trans people are dehumanized. But I need people to realize that this is the reality for a lot of trans women. Many, many trans people have been physically assaulted before, and it's not that far-fetched to think that it would happen. And it's terrifying to think that I could be sitting in class with the person who did this, and that this past weekend, somebody physically assaulted a trans woman for being trans, and that person is one of our peers, that person's on campus, and those attitudes are really running rampant even throughout our community at New Paltz, which prides itself on being accepting and liberal. I personally was physically assaulted in a bathroom once because I was trying to use the men's bathroom, and a man in there decided that he didn't think I belonged there, so he punched me as I was about to leave. And it's just it's a really big reality for trans people, that violence, it's part of our everyday lives. It's a real fear. Using the bathroom is a source of panic and anxiety all the time. Walking down the street can be a source of panic and anxiety because it's really common that someone will at least threaten to hurt us. You walk by and someone says, is that a man or a woman? And then they're a threat to your physical well-being.
The Working It Out project is a really great student development, student leadership, sort of communications, skill building, everything kind of wrapped into one project that's been around for about 20 years now. It was developed by Dr. Joyce Hunter, who works at Columbia University, and has been really leading research around LGBTQ youth needs for a long time. And she worked with her colleagues and said, how do we create a medium that's going to express what's happening for LGBT youth in ways that are accessible for people? The center has worked with probably 50, 60 students at several different schools through their Gay Straight Alliances to participate in the project, which is about 10 weeks long. So students are making a commitment that they're going to come after school 1 day a week, for 2.5 months and really get something from the project. What youth have described, and there are LGBT youth and straight identified allies that participate in the project, what they've said is that they develop compassion for themselves and what they're experiencing. They develop more compassion for each other. They feel a calling to be part of something at their school that will make a difference, whether it's a day of awareness like the Day of Silence, or if it's starting a diversity club where there hasn't been one, or if it's giving a presentation perhaps to their principal or their Board of Education about changes they think that should happen in their school. Whatever they kind of decide is going to work best in their school, they're usually feeling very eager to begin that kind of work, because they've really developed those skills around taking leadership and advocating for safety for all in their schools. So you had asked if the community center was aware of the potential protest by the Westboro Baptist Church in our area, and yes, we've become aware of it. Community members have called here or sent emails letting us know that they've heard about it. We're really heartened to hear directly from the president at Vassar College, where apparently Westboro Church thinks that they should come and protest at Vassar College. As Vassar College is known as being a champion of equality for all and having specific programs and supports for LGBT identified students, they thought that that was a good location for them to protest. So we're really heartened that the college president said, we're going to keep the student body safe, and there won't be the intrusion of sort of unpermitted access on the campus. But there is really a place for students at Vassar to gather in support of each other, in support of equality, in support of doing the right thing. And so they've been organizing, I think, for the past few days, what their response will be. And it'll be a peaceful protest that really shows the positivity of people working together. And so, we were made aware that that was happening. We've shared that information with other community members who've asked what the community response was going to be. And we really felt that Vassar is showing that they have leadership in this area and that we want to support that.
I would just say, just keep persevering.
It can be a struggle.
I felt suicidal before, and we live in a world that tells us on a regular basis we shouldn't exist, especially if you're trans or gender variant.
Be yourself, and don't let anyone get the best of you, because there's going to be a lot of people that you meet who are going to want to bring you down, tear you down, rip you apart, just for no good reason. And there's nothing wrong with you. You're beautiful. Be yourself. Stay proud. Stay strong. And you can totally get through anything.